Yeah, let's get into it, bro. Just gotta go here and then here.
In today's episode, I'm going to tell you two stories. The first story you're going to hear is about this village in Africa where people keep turning up dead and nobody knows why until they do a stakeout. And the second and final story you'll hear is about this remote island in the Arctic region of northern Canada where these indigenous hunters make a truly disturbing discovery. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to do the like button's grocery shopping, but don't tell them you've squirted an entire bottle of lime juice into their fresh milk. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's stories. March 7th, 2005. A 64-year-old man named John Mangine crouched in the bushes in his little village in Uganda. Several of John's friends and neighbors were also crouching in bushes nearby, and everyone was being totally silent, constantly scanning the area, looking for movement. But so far, nothing had happened, and everyone was totally exhausted and terrified. So John had been around for a long time. He had 9 kids, 31 grandkids, and he remembered a time that was...
Excuse me? We're not gonna... No, we're not skipping over details like that. He said 9 kids and how many grandkids?
He had 9 kids, 31 grandkids.
31 grandkids. So that means that each kid had like... I'm not the one to do the math here, but it's probably a lot. Like, I'd guess around 4 or 5 kids per kid. Like, bro. Like, honestly, I'm not trying to be like racist or anything, like not at all, but I don't know, I feel like if you live in Africa and you live in like a village or just anywhere, it doesn't even have to be Africa, if you just live in like a village tribal area, all you can really do is like hunt food, sleep, talk to the other people in the village, and then have babies. Like, seriously, what else can you do, right? What else can you do? Like, I don't think that's a crazy take. I think that's a normal take.
And he remembered a time that was not even that long ago when this village was a happy, bustling place where, families and kids could play in harmony and everyone felt safe. But that all changed 14 years earlier in 1991. Because, starting in that year, people in this village started dying. Or more specifically, people in this village started getting killed by someone. They didn't know. It was like randomly people would just go missing and then turn up horribly mutilated and deceased, or people just vanished and were never seen again. Over the course of these 14 years, 83 people from this village had been killed.
Damn.
And nobody knew why. And 83 people, to put this in perspective, represented 10% of this entire village's population.
But like, I feel like, okay, first of all, my spacebar needs to fucking work! That's first of all. Because every time I press it, it doesn't, like, I have to press it twice for some reason. Okay, that's, to just get that out of the way, that's first of all. Second of all, I don't know, man, Uganda, like, I feel like, couldn't there just be some wild, crazy animal that's been on a streak? Like, there are a lot of dangerous animals in Africa, and I feel like some of them, like, for example, tigers, like, one tiger could be more berserk than the other ones and just go on a killing spree, right? And it doesn't even have to be seen. Like, most of them could disappear at night and just get killed by a tiger. Or we have a Ugandan Dexter. We have a Ugandan Dexter going around and killing people, right? Those are my two, like, even if I lived in this village, those would be my two obvious conclusions. Even as an 18-year-old, like that, like, still. Like, I'm not gonna believe in some shit, like, in some crazy stuff. I'm just gonna be like, damn, bro. The animals got him, or, like, Ugandan Dexter got him.
Widespread that everybody in John's village...
Or it could be both. Like, let's be real. I mean, 83 people is... That's a lot. So I kind of feel like, they probably split it up. Like, I feel like Ugandan Dexter and the Berserk Tiger made a deal with each other where it's like, okay, we'll take, like, 40 people each. and that we'll confuse them that way.
Personally knew someone who had been killed by whatever was plaguing.
MrBallen, did they find the bodies? That's what I need to know. Okay, I'm a detective on a case right now. All right, if they found the bodies, then that is a very good sign. Especially if they're somewhere in the middle of the woods, completely mauled up, completely fucked up. If they've just disappeared, I mean, I'm assuming then he would say that they were missing and that they weren't killed. But if they disappeared, I mean, that would be a little more weird, considering I'm assuming that this Ugandan village kind of goes around and looks around in the area for like food and stuff. So they would probably run into some dead body, especially if 83 people died. But yeah, I mean, if they just went missing, that's a bit scary.
In this village. And at some point, the people in this village began to think that clearly a demon is responsible for this. I mean, this is so pervasive that this can't be it.
Okay, I'm not gonna be racist. I'm not gonna be racist or tribalist or whatever. It's not really about race. It's just kind of about like, developing countries or like people who just live in tribes and stuff. So I get that you believe in the paranormal, like in that you believe in demons and curses and all of this stuff. But I also feel like, wouldn't you also just think it was a tiger? Like, if you've lived in a place where there are wild animals that kill other people, because like that's the first assumption I would make. Unless it's more exciting to think that it's a demon. I mean, then we're talking about something entirely else. But I mean, I feel like even like the elders and everything, like I feel like they should draw the conclusion that it's some kind of crazy berserk animal that's going around doing shit.
An animal or a person for this. I mean, this is so pervasive that this can't be an animal or a person.
Pervasive. I mean, now that I really think about it, oh, daily ban time. What the fuck? I've only streamed for 8 minutes and I already have a ban? Alright. So, where was I? Yeah, now that I really think about it, the likelihood of it being some kind of like some animal is probably not that big, because how is even a berserk tiger, how are they gonna kill 83 people? Like 83 people is, now that I really think about it, that's a lot of fucking people for a tiger to kill too. I mean, tiger isn't even primarily like the feast or like their preferred meals. Yeah, now that I'm really reconsidering, it could be like several different animals, but yeah, I mean, some villages are just unlucky. Like, what if this particular village just got hit with the most unlucky set of animal attacks ever, and they just didn't know about it?
This is like, God's will or something, or this is, the devil's will. We don't know, but it's supernatural. Like, we can't control this. It just is a part of living here. And so literally, this village, the people here, had just grown to accept that, sometimes people just turn up mutilated and dead. There's nothing we can do about it. We just gotta live with it. But John, I mean, he personally knew several people who had been killed, and he never took the stance of, well, it's supernatural and we can't do anything about it. John's like, no, we need to look into this. There's gotta be an actual explanation for what's happening here. And so finally, in 2005, the tipping point was a little boy went missing in the village one morning. And for John, I mean, he has all these grandkids, including a bunch of little boys, and he saw this little boy go missing, and, he was never found again. And John's thinking, that's just like one of my grandkids. This has to stop. We gotta look now. We have to look into this now. And so John very forcefully rounded up some people in the village, his friends and neighbors and others, and he told them, tonight, we are going to set up a stakeout and stay out all night if we have to, and wait for this demon, this creature, this person, whoever it is. We are going to catch them in the act and put an end to this thing. And because John was so motivated, so enthusiastic, and so ready to sort of lead this thing, he really quickly turned the tide of people's opinions in this village. It's like they went from being, oh, we can't do anything about it, to, you know what, yeah, let's put an end to this thing. And so sure enough, that night, John and all these people he had got together for this stakeout, they headed to this area in their village called the Butchery. They had named it that because the majority of the 83 people who had been killed and mutilated and, turned up dead.
Okay, I've missed that. He said mutilated, so now I know that their bodies were fucked up. All right. Very important detail. Very, very important.
They were either found roughly in that area.
I don't know, man. The possibility of a Ugandan Dexter sounds way more possible now. Like, because yeah, I feel like even a berserk tiger, I mean, you need to have a different kind of demon in you to kill 83 people.
Or that's where they were last seen before they vanished. And the butchery was actually basically right next to this lake, this placid lake that sort of sat right next to the village. So everybody's scared of this lake and this area, but tonight's the night. They're gonna figure out what's happening in this.
Tonight's the night? Oh my god, Dexter reference? I think he's getting. I'm just joking. I think he's getting at something here, man. I think it's Ugandan Dexter. I think that's what he's been trying to tell us all along. Tonight's the night, and it's gonna happen again.
Village.
And
so
again.
John and the other volunteers,
It needs to happen.
they make their way over to the butchery, and they each climb
No,
into
I mean,
these
it has
tall
to happen.
bushes,
It has to
these
happen. Not
reeds
need.
that are right next to the lake. And they all crouch down, kind of keeping their eyes on the land, the butchery, and also the lake. And there they sat. All of them constantly looking at each other, maintaining eye contact, to stay safe. And they're looking at each other. They're looking at the water, the black water that's totally still, and there's nothing on land. It's still, it's silent. And for hours they just sat there nervously watching, waiting for something to happen. They didn't know what it was going to be. They didn't know if one of the volunteers in the stakeout was suddenly going to be ripped away by this demon or whatever it was. But all night, on this first night of the stakeout, they're waiting and watching on edge. And nothing happens. And so John the next morning says, we've got to do it again. We got to go back out there and do another stakeout because we know there's something out there. And so sure enough, night 2 rolls around, and now they have even more volunteers. They're motivated. They're out there in the bushes, waiting, watching the lake, watching the land. But nothing happens again. And this cycle continues for 4 more days where nothing happens. John is rallying people every night to keep going back out there. But the group is getting more and more tired. I mean, they're staying out all night. It's also sort of deflating to realize that, it looks like we don't have control over whatever's happening here. Like, we can't catch this thing. We don't even know what it is. And so after 6 days of this, where they had seen nothing, no one's been taken, no one's been killed, it's been totally quiet in the village, John rallies the people one more time. He goes, one more night. Give me one more. I know we're going to catch something. And so he got the village to kind of agree to go out for one more night. And this night, unlike the others, John decided to do something different to try to sort of entice, whatever this creature or person or whoever it was, whatever it was, to entice them out of hiding. He and the villagers strung up all this organ meat.
Smart. Now we're gonna see that it's either a berserk tiger who wants some food, or Ugandan Dexter that just wants to chop this shit up. I'm just joking. But seriously though, I mean, I feel like, considering that they're all going out during the same time and staying in the same place, isn't there just an imposter among them? Like, couldn't Ugandan Dexter just be among them and he just can't do anything because he's just among the rest?
In the trees right near the butchery, believing that, whoever was killing these people was seeking their meat, and so they put
Pause, but whatever.
meat up in the trees. And so that night, the 7th night, John and the others, after putting their organ meat in the trees, they crouch down in the bushes, waiting and watching, and it's silent and it's dark. And at first, nothing happens. And as the night goes on and on, people are starting to think, it's just another night where nothing's going to happen. And people are starting to get restless, and John's telling them, be quiet, stay still, we got to wait, we got to watch, see what happens. Hours and hours go by, nothing. But then, between 4 or 5 in the morning, it's still dark out, the water's black, it's still and silent, and people are really starting to get restless at this point. They begin to hear something. It's like this low grumbling sound that appears to be coming from the lake, but it's hard to tell. The lake was pretty big, and it was still dark out. They're looking out at the water, and it's just dark, and they're right near the water. And so they're hearing this rumbling sound, and everyone's kind of looking out like this is the first time anything has happened during one of these stakeouts.
Well, isn't this fitting?
And John, he's telling them, stay down, stay quiet. And they're looking out at the water.
Yo! Sneaky! What the hell? You're here! Just out of nowhere? I'm watching like a... what do you call it? Like a kind of murder mystery video. But it's kind of like horror. Like, do you know who MrBallen is? This guy? 10 million subs? I'm actually gonna sub to him. I forgot to do that. Do you know who this is? Because I'm watching like a Yes Sir School just ended. Really? You end at 10:50? Are you fucking serious? Bro, like I have a bus to catch. Why are our schedules so different, man? No, I haven't heard of him. Alright, I mean you can stay and watch for a little bit, I guess, if you want. But it's pretty interesting. It's like about right now it's like they're talking about this Ugandan tribe. And like 83 people like died in the village. Their bodies were like mauled up and fucked up, and they're trying to figure out what is happening. So there's this village elder, I believe, who like kind of like gathered his people, and they're like waiting the nights out, and nothing happened. But now it's like the third night, and like they heard something, and he's explaining what it is, kind of.
It's still, but this rumbling, growling sound, it starts getting louder and louder and louder. It's so loud at a certain point.
It's a fucking tiger! I know it's a berserk tiger, bro. Like, come on. Or could you imagine, like, cause like these videos, I know that they can have like a pretty big twist. I feel like, bro, like, what if I was right about like the tiger and Ugandan Dexter splitting up their victims and killing like half and half? That prediction, that would be a legendary prediction.
That John, he can feel his body literally trembling from the sound. And as that begins to happen, even with the minimal light, they're looking out at the black water. And they notice ripples on the surface of the water.
It's in the water? Oh, it's in the... Oh, no. Oh, I thought it was on land. What the fuck's gonna make that sound in the water? It's probably a tiger in the water. It's probably a tiger in the water. Water. Not water. Water.
Something's moving in the lake. And so everybody's looking and waiting. Everyone's scared. John looks over at the other people who are in the other
Alligator? Facts.
set of bushes right near him, and he can see their eyes are wide. They're terrified.
But at the very least, it has to be an animal. Like, I refuse to believe it's anything other than an animal.
But everyone's looking out at the water. And then eventually this massive, dark silhouette emerges from the lake. And this loud growl fills the air and everyone's frozen. And then whatever it is charges towards John. But it doesn't go after John. This huge creature runs past John and bites down on the meat dangling from the trees.
Alligator.
But the meat, they had placed hooks in the meat like a trap. And as soon as this thing bit onto the meat, it got snared in one of the traps and it couldn't move. And
Alligator.
John, who had been waiting for this moment, even
Alligator.
though he has no idea
Bro,
what's
you're gatekeeping too much. I know it's an alligator.
here, he knew he needed backup.
I mean, it was Sneaky's idea, but...
And so he got up and sprinted into the village and began screaming for everyone to come out here and help us. And so 50 villagers came pouring out of their homes, and they all descended on the tree with all the organ meat and this huge creature dangling and thrashing from the trap. And they suddenly realized that what had been plaguing their village was not a demon. It was instead the largest saltwater crocodile ever found in Uganda. This crocodile was 16 feet long, over 2,000 pounds. I mean, this thing...
So you're telling me that this one crocodile packed up 83 people?
is massive, and for 14 years, this crocodile had been sneaking into the village, grabbing people, and dragging them back to the lake.
Oh, no. Oh, nah. Oh, my... I thought it was just... At first I thought these 83 people ran out to the... Like, went outside at night to the lake, where they would obviously get packed up. This motherfucker went to their homes and ate them in their homes and dragged them out. He actually is Dexter. I mean, I thought it was going to be Dexter plus an animal. I didn't know it was going to be a combination. I didn't know it was going to be a fucking combination. We're talking a serial killer crocodile, bro.
And nobody had seen it, or more specifically,
Heard it.
anyone who had seen this crocodile, this beast, did not live to tell the tale. Authorities were quickly called to the village, and they wouldn't allow the villagers to kill this crocodile as much as they wanted to. Instead, the crocodile was relocated.
Vill du ha en Lambo? Bo i Dubai? Tid över en natt.
When you need to end stream? I mean, my bus leaves at like 11:45, so probably like 11:30.
Launched a brand new podcast here at Ballen Studios called Redacted, Declassified Mysteries with Luke LaManna. And so far, you guys have loved it. And in case you haven't heard, we also launched a YouTube channel for Redacted, where you can not only listen to these episodes, but also watch the beautiful animations we've done for each of these episodes. That channel already has 150,000 subscribers, and it's growing really quickly, and there are hours of content available right now for you to binge. New uploads to this YouTube channel will be every single Tuesday. All you have to do is look up at Redacted Mysteries on YouTube, and I'll also be putting a link in the description below. Wondery Plus subscribers can also watch Redacted on the Wondery app. Okay, back to the stories. One morning in April of 1848, a group of men were walking towards the coast of King William Island, which is an island located in the freezing Arctic region of northern Canada. These men were members of the Inuit people, who are indigenous to King William Island, and today they were going hunting. Specifically, they were making their way towards the coastline to see if they could find any seals that they could hunt and kill for food and for clothing. However, even though technically the coastline was right in front of them, they couldn't actually see the water, because there was this huge icy hill that obstructed their view. So in order to look down to the water, they would have to crest that hill and then look down. As these hunters got closer to the hill, the youngest of the hunters broke from the group and ran up the hill to basically get an early look over and see if he could spot any animals down below. However, as soon as he crested the hill and scanned the coastline, again, you got a picture, it's snowy, icy outside, it's below 0 degrees. I mean, you're in the Arctic wild here.
How do these people survive? Like this just shows that people are built different. How do you survive in this climate?
He's looking down, and at first, all he sees is just white, just snow, ice. But he sees something else. And as he's looking at it, he can't even understand what he's seeing. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not computing. And so at this point, the young hunter kind of ducked down on this side of the hill, kind of away and out of view of the ocean, and he turned and signaled to the other hunters to get up here and take a look. And so the other hunters, they don't really understand what's happening here, but they can see, there's some urgency coming from this young hunter. And so they run up the hill as well, and all together, all at once, they kind of peer up and over the hill again, and they look down, and for a second, they all just stared in horrified silence. Down below, wandering along the coastline, were not seals or walruses or any other animals that these hunters might have expected to see out here. Instead, they saw people. Specifically, they saw Kalunat, which is their word for white men. But these men were not acting like people. They were lumbering, almost like they weren't in control of their bodies. They had these strange, jerky movements, and they were all just kind of staring straight ahead with these vacant expressions, and their skin, it was like black and blue, and their clothes were tattered, and they were just kind of lumbering along, about 40 of these Kalunat, these white men. Now, for these hunters, they really didn't have much exposure or experience around Kalunat, around white men. All they really knew at the time and in this part of the world is that white men were pretty dangerous to the indigenous people. But they did know there was a group of Kalunat who were staying on a ship that was off the coast of King William Island, and they had been living there for the better part of a year, and it seemed like their ship might have frozen off the coast, and they were just kind of trapped until the warmer months came around and they could sail away. But to this point, the Inuit people really had not seen or interacted with any of those white people. They had just kind of kept to themselves, and that was it. So just to see the Kalunat, the white people, on land, that alone was really shocking. Like, what happened? Why did they leave their ship? Why are they here? But again, the way they were moving and how they looked, it seemed wrong. Like there was something wrong with these people. Like there's more to this story than the Inuit people understand. And it was sort of terrifying. And on top of just the way they were moving, there was something else these Kalunat were doing. In addition to these men just kind of lumbering along the coastline, a few of them were dragging this big sled. And there was a tarp over the sled. Clearly something big or several things were under this tarp. But the Inuit hunters, they couldn't quite tell what it was. It was covered up. And so they're just watching these men in this weird parade along the coastline with the sled, and they really...
Alright, so when he said sled, that actually made more sense. That was, instead of adding another mystery to it all, I feel like that kind of explained shit more. Because, if they hunted and killed some kind of polar bear and won, and that's what they're dragging, no wonder they look fucked up,
They were like, we have...
But I am kind of, the thing is, I don't know much about like lore when it comes to like what people were like. Gotta go and I'll talk to you later. All right, I'll see you, Sneaky. I'll see you. I don't really know much lore when it comes to like people who were staying like in these Arctic regions, both Inuits and white people. Like I don't really know much about that. So like I don't really know how they could have ended up here, but
To get out of here.
I mean, I guess they were just I guess they were just exploring the whole world.
Ducked their heads below the icy hill to kind of stay out of view of the Kalunat, who to this point it did not seem like they had spotted the hunters. And as the hunters are sort of trying to figure out what they should even do, they hear this awful guttural scream coming from down below where these men are, where these white men are. And instinctively, the hunters, they grab their spears and they poke their head up over the hill, almost thinking maybe they've spotted us, maybe they're going to attack us. But no, when they look down below, many of the Kalunat were still just kind of lumbering along, but one of them had stopped, and he was kind of retching around like there was something wrong with him, and he continued to scream out, and then he just crumpled to the ground. But the other white men, it was like they didn't even react to it, except for the men pulling the sled. They pulled the sled right up alongside this man who had just fallen to the ground after screaming, and they just sort of nonchalantly pulled back the tarp, revealing all sorts of bodies on this sled. They picked the guy who had just fallen, and they threw him onto the pile. They covered him back up with the tarp, and then, like nothing had happened, the men kept on pulling the sled.
What the
and this
fuck?
totally creepy procession continued down the coast. At this point, the Inuit hunters...
So I'm guessing it's an accident. Like I don't know anything about this shit,
were
man.
genuinely terrified.
Like they must have just tried to hunt food and then they fucked up and now they just gotta carry their dead people.
And without saying anything, they just scrambled back down the hill and ran back to their village.
Vi gav det svenska folket en chans att upptäcka
Oh
sin
my
släkthistoria.
god. That's the third ad so far.
The following day, the Inuit hunters came back to that exact spot, that icy hill that looked down to the ocean below. Except this time, they had brought along several pounds of seal meat. So the previous day, when these hunters had gone back to their village to tell the others about what they had just seen, oddly enough, the consensus became that, of course the Kalunat are sort of dangerous to us and we should keep our distance. But from what you're describing, it sounds an awful lot like these men, these white men, must just be starving. Like the way they're moving, the fact that men are falling down and dying, and they have this, sled full of dead bodies. They're out here in the Arctic wild. I mean, this is a very unforgiving place. And so the consensus was, they're starving to death. That's what you're seeing. That's why they're acting the way they are. And so maybe the move here is you hunters go back to that same spot, try to find these Kalunat, and give them some food, not only to help them, to be good people, good stewards of humanity, but also as sort of like a peace offering, because there was tension between the Inuit people.
I mean, that is I don't know, man. I feel like, is that really the strat? Is that really the strategy? Like, I feel like if I was like the Inuits in this situation, I would just stay out of it. Like, I don't think they fully understand how, like, absolutely insane white people were at this time. Like, it's, like, bro, just look at, like, Europe's history, man. They, like, France and, like, all of these countries, like, they were just at war with each other every second of the day. Every second of the day, bro. They were, like, plagues and, like, these, like, absolutely insane wars with spears and, like, guns, and like it's not worth it. And they fought over their colonies, and like they're not good people, bro. In medieval times they used the most horrendous torture methods ever. Like, no, don't even try peace offering. Like, peace isn't even like a word in their head. Like, they will never ever leave you guys alone. Like, and what happened to the Inuits? Didn't they like, did they die out? Like, I gotta look this shit up. What happened to the Inuits? While their way of life has been significantly impacted by modernization, they continue to exist. Okay. Did the Inuits get killed by white people. Oh, okay. All right. All right. So it seemed like it's we're not talking like native population bad here. We're just kind of talking like, yeah, there were tension, but like there was also trade. I mean, there was also trade between like the natives in like, you know, America and like you know the natives in like with Europeans and like Native Americans and stuff. There was trade there to some degree, but like so many Native Americans died, bro. First to disease, and then to like wars with like the Europeans, and like then with war with like own tribes at one point.
And the Kalunat. And so these hunters had agreed.
And yeah, I mean the Europeans like were the first like nations to have like fucking guns and shit, so they really could just pull up to any place and just be like, yeah, hand it over, it's over. And they had ships and everything. Like it was just they were ahead, bro, and they were crazy, bro.
Showed up with the intention of finding these 40-some-odd white men, giving them some food, and maybe even offering some help, if they need it. And so that day, the Inuit hunters, they make it back to their spot, they climb up that icy hill, and they look down towards the ocean below, and there's nobody there. It's just complete isolation. And so the hunters, they go down to the coastline, and they see footprints from the day before. They find, the tracks from the sled that had been being dragged, and they just start tracking the footprints of these white men. And for hours, these hunters are just following the footprints along this coastline, in the snow, and
they're gonna find just everybody dead.
The ice, and
everybody's gonna be dead.
Ahead, they don't see anybody, and it's like, wow, like these guys, they covered a huge amount of ground. Like, where did they go? And eventually, after hours of this, the hunters come upon this campsite, but it's totally abandoned. It's right on the edge of the water, and based on where the campsite was and sort of how fresh it looked, it seemed pretty obvious that at some point, clearly, the Kalunat had been camped out here. But they clearly are not here now. But interestingly, the people that had been here, presumably the white men, they had left behind quite a few of their supplies. Like, there was the remains of a fire, and sitting over the fire was this big pot, like a metal pot. And you would think, if you're struggling to survive out here, that you would definitely want to keep some of your cooking supplies. But no, that was left behind, along with several other tools.
And they got raided by a polar bear. It's an animal brutality, or I mean, it's not animal brutality. It's a animal attacking video. The animals in this video are packing humans up. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's what the whole theme of this video probably is.
Inuit hunters, they're looking around.
Okay, so if the last one was the world's largest saltwater crocodile, this one's probably going to be like the world's largest polar bear.
Okay, well, maybe they just stepped away and they're going to come back. But they searched the vicinity of the campsite, but nobody was there. The footprints just kind of picked up and continued off into the distance. And so, feeling pretty puzzled by this, the Inuit hunters decided to just search the campsite and try to get some clue as to what's going on with these white men. And eventually, after searching through all the different things that had been left behind, they came back to that fire and that pot that had a lid over it that was sitting right there. And one of the hunters walks up to the pot, he grabs the lid, he lifts it off, and when he saw what was inside, he reeled back in horror. Several months later, that same group of Inuit hunters had hiked miles and miles down that same coastline of King William Island until they saw off in the distance, right off the coast, this big wooden ship. And these hunters knew this ship belonged to the Kalunat.
Oh, they probably got stranded. I know what happened. Yo! Nah, I know what happened. Yo, what the fuck? I don't know, it just hit me like a train. Of course, they fucking crashed and the survivors ate each other. That's what happened, bro. That's why there's something in the pot. That's why they put people on the fucking sled. The people who died were used as fucking food, man. It's like that one story about like the football team who was on a plane, crashed in like the mountains between Chile and Argentina, and there was no help to get, and they had to eat each other, bro. Cannibalism.
And today, their plan was to break into the ship and raid it, because just recently, these hunters had finally kind of solved the mystery of what happened to those, 40-some-odd white men they had seen. Because they came across this mass gravesite, of like 30-plus white men all dead in the snow. And clearly, they had starved to death and died from exposure. And so it just sort of seemed like this unfortunate thing, that these guys had hiked and hiked and hiked and just kind of fell down and died. But now that the Inuit hunters knew that all these white men were dead, They're like, well, there's a ship sitting right out there that, no one's going to claim, so why don't we take whatever's inside of it? And so the Inuit hunters walked out onto the ocean, which was completely frozen. So the ship, it's off the coast, but it's basically a pathway of ice right up to the ship. And so the hunters, they walked on this ice all the way out to the ship. And when they got there, unsurprisingly, it was totally vacant. It's silent, it's still. Clearly, there's nobody in this ship. Now, as the Inuit hunters climbed the side of the ship and got ready to go inside, they all had set their expectations to be like, okay, clearly the men who had inhabited this ship at one point, the white men, the Kaludanat, they obviously abandoned the ship and, tried their luck on land unsuccessfully. So clearly something must have happened out here. Like they ran out of food, or there was a leak in the ship, or some sort of chaos ensued here that caused them to abandon their shelter and, head towards the Arctic wilds, right? But once they got on board the ship and looked around, they quickly realized the ship was in pristine condition. I mean, there was no damage to the ship. It was practically brand new, preserved out in the ice here. When they went down below, they discovered there were all these bedrooms with these incredibly comfortable looking beds, and there was bunk beds and hammocks with linens and pillows. There was a library with hundreds of books. There were games. There was all this cutlery and fine china. And just off the kitchen, in their pantry, was this massive food storage room full of food, canned goods, all still good, that apparently had just been left behind. And so the Inuit hunters, they're thinking like, how is this possible? What caused these white men to abandon their ship, which presumably was perfect, pristine, provided much better shelter, and also they abandoned all their food, like they clearly weren't starving. So what happened? What caused them to go on land and die horrible deaths? Well, the reason for this would not fully make sense for another 130 years, because it was in the 1980s when researchers actually began to analyze the remains of these white men, those 30, 40 white men who were found dead on King William Island. It would turn out those men were explorers who had been sent out to the Arctic by the British government. And they had been well outfitted when they were sent out on their journey. I mean, they were given that incredible ship, and they were given all these supplies, including a whole bunch of canned food items. However, what these explorers didn't know is that their canned food had become tainted with lead. And so as they slowly were eating all these canned food items, they were slowly poisoning themselves. And one of the side effects of lead poisoning, in addition to feeling nauseous and horribly sick, is it drives you crazy. It basically gives you these wild mood swings. And so like the whole ship, all these men are undergoing these totally insane mood swings and basically falling into actual mental hysteria out on this ship. And so in their hysterics, all these men decide to abandon their ship and head into the Arctic wild to forage for food and who knows what. I mean, they literally were out of their minds.
Well, good thing those fucking Inuits didn't pull up to them. What the fuck? Yo, I swear, sometimes, bro, like... See, I understand why this is a mystery. This is so, like... This is so random. You really have to be, like, not only a detective, but basically a scientist to figure this shit out. Lead poisoning, bro. I'm gonna look this shit up, actually. Alright, maybe, okay, maybe I shouldn't show this, actually. Damn, that's crazy, though.
And when they got to land, into the wilderness, they didn't find food, they didn't find shelter, they found death and misery. And as they devolved into insanity and men began falling down and dying, because they were starving to death, they began eating their brothers. They began eating the dead men. That sled they were dragging along was not to preserve the bodies, to give them a proper burial down the road. It was like their mobile refrigeration unit. They were dragging those bodies along.
See, that I could guess. I just didn't guess that fucking the reason they went outside was because of lead poisoning. I feel like, do you really need to be lead poisoned to do that stuff? I feel like white men would have just gone out there anyway, been like, yeah, let's see what this is about, man. And then they just die. But yeah, I was confused when I heard that the ship was in good condition. Why couldn't the ship just have crashed and that they would just be forced to abandon it? Right? That would make so much more sense. Why does it have to be this weird lead poisoning bullshit?
And then eating them. And so the reason those Inuit hunters were so horrified when they discovered that campsite and they looked inside of that pot, well, it's because inside of the pot was clearly a human skull, and that skull had been cracked open, as if whoever was tending this pot had literally been scooping in and basically eating this person's brain. To this day, bones of the
That shit is fucking nasty, bro.
crew members of that failed expedition are still being found on King William Island.
King William Island. I'm sorry, bro. I have to look this shit up. Oh my god. How the Do you know how far up north this shit is? Like, this is where, like, people who live in the north can, like, this is, like, the highest they'll go to actually live their life. Oh my god. It's a big island, too. Yeah, it's crazy that, like, even Europeans, like, at that time, how the fuck did they reach this? Just by boat, and they just managed to find this shit with, like, a map? Good lord.
Thank you so much for watching.
Alright, W video, subscribe to MrBallen, and I think I'll wrap it up. 43 minutes is a pretty short stream. I thought it would be longer, considering, like, how long my videos usually are. Sorry, streams usually are. I mean, it's gonna be the same thing at this point. I mean, my streams turn into videos. But, yeah, I'm not gonna be yapping. I'll see ya soon. Maybe not tomorrow, but...